1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
So welcome to the ITSC subcommittee meeting. We've got a few items on the agenda today. Before we get underway, I just want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded and never surrender territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Running through the agenda, I know we have presentations on all three items. So are there any declarations of interest? See none. Confirmation of the minutes? Carried. So we have 1, 2, 3 items before we move on to the rest of the business. So the first, 4 items. So the first item, I think we have a presentation, is on the proposed term of council priorities.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to present the term of council priorities today at ITSC. As councillors are aware, on November 6th, the proposed 2019 to 2022 term of council priorities were tabled at council by our city manager, Steve Kanalakis. The team in service transformation, under the direction of Marc-René Ducotre, did extensive work in the development of 7 priorities for council's consideration under 3 themes: our city, our service, and our people. These were based on considerations including the growing population of Ottawa, the changing service needs and expectations of residents, a desire to be innovative in how services are designed and delivered to residents, a need to strengthen public engagement to understand residents' changing needs and expectation, and as always, there is a desire to balance short-term and long-term investments. Today, committee will consider the actions that fall under Innovative Client Services mandate under the following priorities: economic growth and diversification, and service excellence through innovation. My colleagues, Marc-René Ducotre, Director of Service Transformation, and Sandro Carlucci, Acting CIO, will be providing more detailed information in the budget presentation. I would like to provide a high-level overview of outcomes to be delivered within the strategic priorities that move us towards being a smart, secure, and connected city. With respect to economic growth and diversification, ICS, under the leadership of Monsieur René Ducotre, will be developing a Connectivity Ottawa strategy to support the Smart City 2.0 strategy, enable a digitally connected city and a smart economy. With respect to service excellence through innovation, Monsieur René Ducotre and Mr. Carlucci will be working together to deliver an improved digital experience for residents by leveraging common platforms, architectures, and technologies to put in place a secure and modern technology environment that can be leveraged to drive innovation. We can expect to see more self-serve access to information and services that are more personalized to residents' needs and expectations. We will move forward on a smart city, a secure city, and a connected city. Additionally, we will increase our focus on public engagement to promote a consistent and more diverse representation in public participation. This includes piloting an online public engagement platform and developing an engagement and measurement tool. The activities under these priorities will both support residents and allow for public engagement and client insight to help refine city services. Part of Innovative Client Services mandate includes ensuring that we have the right tools to deliver excellent service. These are some of the foundational elements to continuing to drive innovation and improvement. Further details will be provided in the budget presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Turner. Are there any questions? We don't have any delegations on this one. Are there any questions from committee members? No? I know we have a schedule of when we'd like to see updates on how those terms of priorities, particularly things like Smart City, are being accomplished. So we'll look forward to getting updates through the next several years on those. So are the term of council priorities carried?
Carried.
Thank you. The second item is technology security status update IT services. Ms. Turner, is that your? Oh, no, Sandra's. Staff.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. I'll be presenting today the ITS Technology Security Status Update. Everyone has a role in protecting our city assets for a smart city, secure city. ITS Technology Security continues to work with all of our technology stakeholders at the city to ensure security's best practices are followed according to our updated policies and standards. In 2019, positive working relationships have been strengthened throughout the year with our technology partners in collaboration on the common goal of information security. I'd also like to take this opportunity to provide some of the additional work that we did in 2019 outside of the follow-up audits that we are scheduled to be completing the deliverables by the end of the year. ITS Technology Security has guided the successful corporate rollout of the following important security controls. Multi-factor authentication. There are currently over 10,000 city staff have now enrolled in using MFA. This greatly reduces the risk of unauthorized access to our environment. We've also rolled out an awareness program, the mandatory cyber training, security training, in which almost 9,000 city staff are now more aware of the security threats and when to report them. In addition, our team has conducted a number of technical risk assessments. Over 100 security assessments have been completed so far this year, which includes many of the proof of concepts and projects required to support our digital transformation projects and initiatives. With respect to the 3 follow-up audits in 2019, I believe that ITS has completed significant work on the recommendations, and we are on targeted to tracking all the recommendation deliverables to completion. We have done this by doing the following. In 2019, as part of our work plan, we created an audit portfolio group. This provided the structure and the resources needed to complete the recommendation deliverables. This group, working well together among ITS as well as our technology partners, have created the following deliverables. We've updated our roles and responsibilities so that they align with the changes that we've made to the technical security risk management governance team. Additionally, a challenge mechanism validation process is being added to the IT risk framework. And as well, ITS is working to align the ITRM framework with the enterprise risk management policy. So with regards to the 3 audits, I just want to give assurance to the committee today that we have put the right resources. We are tracking to complete our recommendations by the end of the year, and we will be providing those deliverables to the OAG at their request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It turns out that in order to hear that presentation, we required a quick motion. So, Councillor Derues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That pursuant to subsection 89-3 and 83-4A of the procedure bylaw, the Information Technology Subcommittee waived the rules of procedure to receive presentation from the Chief Information Officer, Information Technology Services, ITS, Innovative Client Services Department regarding ITS Technology Security Status Update at today's meeting and dispense with the requirement for staff to provide a separate written report on this verbal update presentation.
Is that carried? Carried. Are there any questions? Councillor Suds?
Just a couple. Can you remind, through the chair, can you remind me the governance structure, I believe is the IT security governance table or team, who is on that?
The Technical Security Risk Management, the TSRM governance team, we made a change in 2019 where now the former group consisted of the CIO, the city clerk, as well as the treasurer. In 2019, we made a change, part with the reorg, that now the general manager of Innovative Client Services, along with the city solicitor, as well as an operational general manager, which happens to be Kevin Wiley of Public Works, are now the new members of the IT or the TSRM, and then the CIO acts in the role of the advisor and brings the recommendations to the governance, and they are the ones that approve the the risk handling of a particular item.
Terrific. And how often is that team meeting?
We met earlier this year to do the training. It was in October, and we talked a little bit about the governance, how we're going to structure ourselves. So we're still finalizing, but we're going to be meeting on a quarterly basis. But at the same time, the real big driver comes up with regards to some of the projects. And so we've created our communication channel in which we will be able to communicate these changes to the governance body and communicate with them back and forth. So although we may have scheduled meetings, the real driver comes up with regards to there's a risk. It comes to the CIO, the IT. We realize we need to escalate this, and that's the vehicle that we use to escalate. So it's really more on demand when it's really required from a project perspective or an operational requirement.
Fantastic. And maybe just one last question around the 3 audits. What is the next reporting requirement as far as the Auditor General?
I'll be working with our business support services group to follow up with the Auditor General. We really haven't kind of formalized what the next steps are. We are tracking to have all the deliverables done by the end of the year, and so for the next steps, we'll still be working with that for till the end of the year. I know they're going to be coming to us to do audits in 2020, and so we may have more ideas of when they'll actually be looking at some of the deliverables that we're completing for this year.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you. Sounds like some great progress. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sudds. Questions of staff from Councillor Turney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great work, and I always enjoy the security aspects of this because it is very critical to ensure we get that correct. I'm trying to remember how far back. It might be about 2 years ago, maybe a little less. In our emails, we have the caution. This is an external email, and I'll keep asking in this until we find another solution. Has there been progress made on that front? Because the dangers that, and I've raised this before, in the subject line 9 times out of 10, as councillors, we could figure out very quickly if it's part of a spam group or whatever the case may be. Right now, that opportunity is taken away because all we see is caution. We don't know the first couple of lines because it's been forced in there, and making it more dangerous in my mind because then I have to open the email, and that's not a good thing either. Is there another solution that's coming down the pipe?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. It is my understanding, Councillor Tierney, our staff have been in touch with your office last week around piloting another solution.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that I follow up with you personally after this meeting. But I think we do have a solution in place.
Apologies, it's a bit of a gong show around here these days, so I may have missed it
That's
between
okay.
trains and things. So thank you.
On our side as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, is that received? The third item on conversational artificial intelligence needs the same motion to hear it. Councillor Tierney.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That pursuant to subsection 89.3 and 89.4A of the procedural bylaw, the Information Technology Subcommittee waive the rules of procedure and receive the presentation from the Director of Services Transformation Innovative Client Services Department regarding conversational artificial intelligence at today's meeting, and dispense with the requirement for the staff to provide a separate written report, this verbal report update presentation.
Is that carried? Mr. Decotre, artificial conversational intelligence. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also looking forward to it because I'm thrilled to be presenting about conversational artificial intelligence. This is a real indication of how progressive this organization is in terms of the kind of next generation technologies that we're going to impact service delivery. Everyone, public or private, are looking at artificial intelligence, conversational artificial intelligence in particular. It's widely believed that conversation is going to be the next user interface. Voice will be the next user interface. And I want to take some time to provide you with a bit of context why this is critical for the city to start running some pilots on this very technology, to give you a sense of how things are evolving in the marketplace. So if I go to the next slide, you know, the real power of conversational AI lies in its ability to simultaneously carry out highly personalized interactions with large number of individual citizens. Conversational AI can fundamentally transform an organization, providing more ways of communicating with customers while facilitating stronger interactions with greater engagement. In a nutshell, with the advent of digital, and we are in a digital environment nowadays, this concept of mass personalization is suddenly real, right? Their ability to communicate with people in a way that's personalized, customized, and in context is now possible in ways it just wasn't even 5-10 years ago. And we know messaging is now the preferred method of interactions for folks. AI is more and more accessible to most organizations by virtue of SaaS-based platforms. It's being integrated in many client-facing platforms nowadays, and it's a question of starting to leverage that to really impact citizen experience. So if I go to the next slide, let me give you some statistics by way of further context. Gartner, estimates that 20% of all citizens in developed nations will use AI assistance to help them with an array of operational tasks. And by 2022, which is the end of our term of council, 30%, an estimated 30% of customer experiences will be handled by conversational agents, up from just 3% in 2017. That's tremendous growth moving forward in these technologies, but it's also an indication of how mature these technologies are becoming and how quickly they're evolving. And so, in many ways, artificial intelligence, conversational artificial intelligence, is to us now as mobile apps were back in the early 2010s, right? In a few years, artificial intelligence will be a standard part of any organization's digital model, so it'll need to be part of your portfolio. And we're making, I believe, the right investments at the right time to start our process of integrating that into our platforms. So if we go to the next slide, other estimates call for, or estimate that 93% of enterprises will have implemented AI or some type of cognitive solutions, and are really stating that those will be a critical competitive advantage for those organizations. We're not in a competitive situation in public sector, but we are in the differentiation business, and we are in the service delivery business. And for us to be able to differentiate the client experience, especially at our level of government, where our demand can be somewhat unpredictable, right? Based on weather events, emergency management, service disruptions, our ability to be able to connect with people real time, anywhere, anytime, and facilitate that interaction and engagement is critical for us. And any technologies that are becoming to the point of being able to be used to facilitate that, it's critical for us to start to pilot those to see how those can be integrated into our platforms. So if you go into the next slide, and we can just do the build here quickly, when you look at the evolution of digital client expectations, there's some critical things that we need to put in place. And if we just continue with the build, Asha, you'll see that there's many different elements of that client experience in digital. Sure, we have to have things that are secure and reliable and responsive, but those at the forefront of digital today are providing customized, personalized, in-context experiences for their customer or client base. And we're putting in place the very platforms that are going to allow us to do that moving forward. So if you go to the next slide, our strategy, digital strategy, our innovative government strategy, is very much focused on that personalization, customization, and in-context client experience. We're just over 1 million residents in Ottawa. We have over 110 business lines here at the city and hundreds of services. All of our residents interact with the city in different ways, accessing different bundles of services. And so our ability to provide that personalized, customized, in-context experiences for every resident becomes possible in a digital world. And we're working through putting some platforms together that can deliver on that experience. And conversational AI is a critical component of that. And so if you move on to the next slide, the foundational pieces that we're putting in place, AI included, will provide our ability to provide that service excellence through innovation through a series of solutions that allow us to innovate around the client experience. So artificial intelligence, social media, mobility, account management, virtual home assistance, push notifications, analytics, preferences, you name it, we're putting those in place to be able to deliver the full potential that digital promises around that client experience, around personalization, customization, and in context. And so if you look at, why AI, why now, the solutions have matured to the point where they can provide almost no-code, low-code, what they call no-code, low-code potential that allows us to quickly update conversations and intent in ways we just couldn't do even a couple years ago. And that allows us to integrate that into our service delivery model to increase client satisfaction. It allows us to better use our resources in critical situations like emergency management so we can focus our call centers on complex cases. It increases resident engagement because we can quickly connect people anywhere, anytime. It better anticipates client needs and allows us to have more informed decision-making through better analytics as we engage with more and more citizens. So if you move on to the next slide, let me give you a sense a bit on timing on this. We've, as in most of our digital solutions, we begin with a proof of concept. We started that about a year ago with the chatbot proof of concept internally with solid waste. We learned a considerable amount in terms of the solution's potential. And then we are at the point now where we are going to be releasing a public pilot in Q1 2020. And we're going to involve residents in testing the chatbot, a pilot, a beta version of it. Much like we've done with our mobile app, we had a beta phase, much like our Open Ottawa open data website, which was piloted through a beta phase. We will be doing the same to engage residents in helping us test this and evaluate the technology. And it'll be based on waste diversion to begin with. And then towards the end of the year, we'll close out the pilot, we'll evaluate it, and we're going to be moving on to the next generation technology called Power Virtual Assistant by the end of the year for added functionality and the potential to move on to no-code, low-code, which is basically a fancy way of saying that those in service delivery can make use of the AI technology in a way that they don't have to be coders to actually create dialogue and intents. And then beyond that, we'll be adding new functionality and new services with the potential of submitting service requests, helping residents with applications. We want to continue to engage residents in new and different ways using an artificial intelligence chatbot and integrate ultimately voice into the mix as well moving forward. So it's exciting times for this, and this will be, it's much more than just introducing in Q1 a small chatbot on a website. This is the beginning of integrating a core piece of technology into our service delivery model to engage citizens in a way that is personalized, customized, and in context. And the last slide I want to just, it's an important piece because I want to really, first of all, thank a few people internally because we were asked to present at the Microsoft Ignite conference just a few weeks ago. This is their premier global conference. And we have been working with Microsoft on their next generation virtual assistant. I think one of very few organizations globally. I think we're the only municipality in the world that has been working with them on the next version of this of their Power Virtual Assistant. We were asked to present at the conference, at the global conference, really putting the City of Ottawa on the map in terms of innovation and next generation technologies and service delivery. And I want to thank a couple people. Although I was up on stage, you're going to see on my right. That's Aaron Byrne. That's from the City of Ottawa and our Service Ottawa service line. We were joined. You can't see him on screen here by Jeff Kazera, who's from Sandro's group in IT. The one person that's not there or wasn't there with us is Tajinder Sandhi, who is part of my team, who has been instrumental in driving and leading this project. I want to thank them all, and there's a lot more people involved behind the scenes, but it just shows how one city, one team comes together with all of these various service lines within innovative client services to deliver next generation solutions that promise to really transform the way we engage with citizens. And we all should be very, very proud of this moment, and I suspect that we will be leading in this field moving forward. And it got picked up by IT World Canada in a news article, and I just can't tell you how thrilled I was that the City of Ottawa got recognized for this, because it really should, and we are at the forefront, and this is much more than just a small chatbot. It's something much more profound and significant in service delivery, and we are at the forefront of shaping that experience for clients with our partners, and that's critical. So that's concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no public delegations on this item. I know Councillor Tierney has some questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, this is very exciting news because literally last month, well, a little over a month ago, I was at the Urban Libraries Council, and we had a full-day session with experts on AI, how this is the next big thing. Obviously, there's a whole tie-in to fake news and other things that could come out of this, so there's lots of concerns at the same time. But I know libraries North America-wide, this is on their radar. This is a big part of a future offering. And examples that I came up with, we have the human library experience, where you can check out individual. It could be someone that was a former drug addict or a former business person or a business, but whatever. There's multiple books you can check out in a human form, and we see an opportunity in the future to have an AI interface so you can always go speak with someone. I guess my question is, how are we communicating with our other, whether it's public health, libraries? Is there that communications channel? Because this is very exciting news. Our CEO of our library was a panelist in this AI discussion with literally hundreds and hundreds of chief librarians and CEOs at this event. And it'd be great to show, yeah, we have a lot of leadership here at the city level, and we're communicating.
Thanks, Chair, for the question. Councillor Tierney, we are continuing to engage with all of our partners here at the city, including Ottawa Police, OC Transpo, with the libraries on all of our pilots, in the hopes that we can leverage the work that we're doing and the investments that we're making for the benefit of all citizens, right? And so many of our pilots that are underway now include the Ottawa Library, the Ottawa Police, et cetera. So we're integrating them into all of our process around POCs and pilots. Not all of these solutions will be applicable to all, but we're making those available for evaluation to folks as we roll these out. So that is absolutely part of the plan.
Great, thank you, and thanks for your leadership.
Thank you.
That. Thanks, Councillor Suds.
Thank you, Chair. Can you share a bit more around what Q1 launch looks like and how we're engaging the public?
So we're still working through the details of the actual launch and the actual date. We're looking kind of a mid-quarter launch. This will be very focused on waste diversion to begin with. It's a topic that's very, very relevant to us in Ottawa, but with other municipalities as well. And we would launch, the idea is we would launch the chatbot, and with the intent of asking Ottawa residents to help us test this. So we're looking at potentially naming the chatbot as well. We're going to try to make it very interactive and fun in terms of a new technology for folks to try. But we will actively on the website with the, as we show the chatbot, asking residents, come and help us test this, evaluate it with us. With the spirit of, again, of engaging folks in trying new and different things with us. We fully expect to learn a lot from that pilot, just as much as we've learned from the proof of concept. But once it's out and live, much like we did with the app or the Open Ottawa, we got great feedback from those beta tests that we've ran, and then we incorporate that in to a final product or launch that we want to do. So the idea would be around solid waste. We'll be working with our partners in solid waste to look at the appropriate time and communication strategy that we can use around waste diversion, because it is an opportunity for us to get a lot of attention around waste diversion at the same time, which is a critical a priority for us here at the city. So we're hoping to be able to leverage the new technology and the excitement around that to gather more attention around that particular piece at the same time. But I'd be happy, Councillor, once the plans are finalized, to come back to you and go through that with you in terms of the launch.
Terrific. Thank you. And so you, obviously the work underway to date with respect to the proof of concept, has the community been involved in any regard, excuse me, up to this point?
We haven't, the process that we follow around a POC is we really try to keep those internal for the most part to try to really understand the technical aspects of the technology. And the next step in the pilot is involving the community in that particular piece. So that next step is around involving the community around this piece.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much. Great to see.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Duriz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to pick up where Councillor Jenna was going. We like to be part of this launching for the. I know we're excited about it. I know it's a good thing. It's something new in the city, and we're the first city to launch something like that. I think probably this committee will be very interested and supportive of your pilot project. But of course, when you have a pilot project, if you don't have people participating, you'll never know how it's going. So we would love to be part of that. So if you can inform this committee on the steps and how you want us to engage. Every councillors here have their own mechanism between communicating to our residents and to our communities. So I think that will be a great idea for us to work with you to be able to make it successful. If we can ask you to keep us informed, that will be great. My second thing will be, I want to thank you and congratulate you and your team, of course, because that's not one person making it behind the scenes. So I know there is so many elements, so many departments involved. So that's a great teamwork, and I'm really happy and proud of our city that we're moving forward with this technology. So I just want to congratulate all of you for that, and we're looking forward for that launch in Q1. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councillor. In terms of the business case for this, what kind of resources have gone into it, and what kind of cost savings would we anticipate moving forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To date, we've had a very light involvement from resources, whether there's a resource from my team, there's a few in IT that are working through that, and then we have our technology partner, Microsoft, that's helped us with this. So the investment has been quite low to date. In terms of the business case, we're seeing this as an added functionality moving forward. So it's really around the potential for connecting with people anywhere, anytime. It's focused on the fact that we can better deal with the unpredictability of the demand that we often face at this level of government in terms of the meeting client expectations in situations with, weather events or emergency events or disruptions in service, but still our ability to connect with people real time. And so we're very, very much focused on things like service levels and client expectations and our ability to continue and maintain a level of engagement with folks, irrespective of variability in demand. It's also around facilitating over time the ability to walk someone through an application process that might be very complicated, to be able to get them with some information much faster without the potential of having to navigate very complex websites sometimes in terms of the information that you're looking for. It's around connecting people with things like the connected car, which we know that there's pilots undergoing right now, in connecting the car with city infrastructure. We know that there's voice assistants in the cars like Alexa now, or in Audis and other car manufacturers. And so how do you connect the car with city infrastructure so people can have a conversation with a virtual assistant in the car while they're looking for parking, for instance? The connected home, we know that there's more and more devices like Google Home and Amazon Alexa in the home. And are people asking their devices, for instance, does this go in the green bin or the blue bin? And so the business case is really focused on the client experience and being able to engage people in ways that they're progressively engaging with their service delivery organizations, public or private, and making sure that we can keep up with that expectation moving forward and delivering that service in a way that's seamless, frictionless, and continuously evolving and meeting folks' needs without burdening them with the potential to having to call or open up their laptop and try to navigate websites. And so that's what we're really focused on. We'll go through the pilot, and through the pilot process, what we typically do is we'll have a much stronger sense of business case in terms of cost and benefits that we'll evaluate through that process, including the technical aspects of the technology and its ability to meet the intended needs. So we'll have a much better sense through that process of the details of that. But I want to be clear that it's not so much about a cost reduction or cost savings as much as it is around making sure that we're meeting the client's expectations moving forward and providing the levels of service that people are asking from us and our services.
That's fair. And you touched on part of my second question, which is around the virtual assistants that people are using, be it Siri or Amazon's or Google's. It's early days yet, but what is that path to integrating a City of Ottawa 311 virtual chat with some of those in-house virtual assistants to the point where I can simply say, hey Siri, what waste is being picked up this week? How does that path look?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very, very good question, because as part of the pilot that we will be running on the chatbot, we will be working with those home assistants, virtual assistants as well as part of this, because we want folks to have the ability to ask waste diversion type questions and solid waste type questions through those devices. They're slightly different in terms of the path that you're following, virtual assistant versus a home assistant, but that's why we called it conversational AI, because those are we're using that umbrella term to encompass both the home assistant, virtual assistant, and the chatbot kind of technology, right? So as part of this pilot, we will be introducing those types of skills so that you can converse with your Amazon Alexa or Google Home in Q1 on some of the topics. So we're introducing that as well. Now we believe, as most of, I think the market believes, that over time all of these technologies will start to converge, right? And that's why I think there's a lot of discussions around voice being the next user interface moving forward, because you will be able to converse with your car, your device, at home, your smartphone, in a way that just allows you to have a conversation with a virtual assistant, and away you go, frictionless, and you'll be able to ask a variety of topics and have a certain level of certainty that the answers that come back are accurate. So we're testing on all fronts. It's a very good question, Councillor, because I didn't touch on that, but you're absolutely right. We are testing that as well as part of that pilot.
And then what is the potential for third parties to build on top of the functionality that we're creating? I think one of the successes over the past year or so has been some of the APIs that have opened up our 311 system. Is there the potential moving forward that third parties can build on top of the good work that you're doing?
Yeah, Art, thank you for the question, Chair. Absolutely is the answer. So we are moving forward on APIs. We'll have to, through the pilot, try to better understand how we would be able to leverage those APIs. But I think of the connected car, for instance, which is just starting. Like, autonomous vehicles are great and it's exciting, but we may be many years away from seeing autonomous vehicles on the road. But the connected car is here. And so, and there's a lot of discussions around vehicle to infrastructure, city infrastructure, so V2I or V2X, as they call it. We want to make sure that we're leaders in that field, that we open up our APIs so that cars can connect with our city infrastructure. And we're piloting some of that technology now. And so our strategy around digital is we don't want to just innovate in-house within our four walls, but use the entire ecosystem to innovate for us. And so to the extent that we can open up APIs and have people connect with our data, with our information, that's absolutely what we want to do. But we will want to test that through the process of virtual assistance, seeing what information we can allow third parties to access, maintaining a certain degree of security, of course, and maintaining the integrity of our environment.
Thank you for that. In terms of a name for the pilot bot on waste diversion, I think Moffat would be an excellent name. Hey, Moffat. Is that report received?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Moving on then to the budget. I know we have one delegate signed up to speak. Are there any others to the budget item? No. In that case, we'll move ahead with, I presume, a presentation on the budget.
Thank you, Chair and committee members, for allowing us to present the draft budget 2020. Information Technology Services provides technology services and solutions to the City of Ottawa to enable service excellence. We are a reliable partner, innovative change agent, and trustworthy custodian. We're a partner because we engage and align our efforts to the priorities of the city's departments and services by providing them modern, secure, and stable technology solutions to make it possible for the city staff to deliver world-class services to our community. We aim to be change agent because innovation is at the heart of what we do. We have an eye to the future to ensure that today's investments in technology yield results for many years to come. And last but not least, we are trustworthy custodians of the city's computing and information environment. Every day, we are facing ever-evolving technology risks and threats, and our job is to lead the way by ensuring the city, our assets, and our information are secured. A smart city is first and foremost a safe city. We're here today to propose to you our 2020 operating capital budgets, which I'm confident will position ITS and our partners to achieve meaningful results in line with the term of council priorities that were presented to you today. From an operating budget summary, ITS base budget of $67.179 million represents a $5.39 million augmentation in 2020. And to account for the following, there was an investment of $4.1 million in Microsoft 365 licenses that are going to address the following. It's going to provide a modern workforce which today relies on tool sets that are available anytime, on any device, to support mobile service solutions for frontline and office workers. The platform also enhances the city's security capabilities concerning data protection, advanced threat protection, multi-factor authentication, as well as mobile device management. The other augmentation in 2020 are for adjustments for the 2020 cost of living increments and benefits adjustments, as well as inflationary impacts on maintenance contracts, purchase services, materials, and professional services. The capital budget summary. We've taken a strategic and pragmatic approach to the ITS renewal capital, having structured and funded a budget envelope to address multiple corporate objectives in order to maximize the value of investments. These are some of the followings. From an application, lifecycling, and simplification. Several of our legacy applications are reaching end of life and/or requiring lifecycling refreshes, which represents an opportunity to do the following. Firstly, further simplify the application landscape while moving to core next-generation enterprise platforms. Secondly, it's going to improve security, accessibility, and service management. Thirdly, enable digital-ready systems of engagement. And finally, move to SaaS-based platforms solutions to support our ongoing innovations. As well, software modernization initiatives include the replacement of Service, BIMS, Grants Management, MAP, and Drupal. As well, as part of our capital spending plan for 2020, is we're looking for investments in our infrastructure lifecycle and modernization. We're looking at renewal and modernization of hardware to address corporate risk of aging infrastructure, as well as to enhance the city's security footprint. We're also going to be looking at core foundational components to implement digital technology, support transformational and stand-up integration capabilities, such as business intelligence and analytics, Internet of Things, a hybrid IT, security, and automation. We're also looking at making investment in technology and information security. We're going to be looking at implementing tools and processes to enhance current security standards and reduce corporate risks. We're looking at establishing a technology architect to support new capabilities, including artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, Internet of Things, data models, security, and low-no-code components of rapid development.
In turn, these foundational investments that that Sandra was talking about will also deliver the new digital capabilities required to drive service excellence through innovation. It's really maximizing the value of those investments in the ITS renewal budget. And I want to talk to you about a few key things that we're moving forward on digital, leveraging those investments. First is improving that digital service to citizens. As you may know, we're moving bylaw to a customer relationship management platform, leveraging new client-facing functionality, including notifications, automation, and other core functions that the public will be able to benefit from. We're also further digitizing permits and licensing pieces to complete that work, including parking permits. We're going to launch next-generation pilots that we talked about, in part conversational artificial intelligence, and also augmented reality, which is I'm quite confident would also quite impress you. It's a very impressive technology, and it's a different way to engage people in about development applications and about looking at potential new sites in new and different ways. And we're quite excited about that pilot as well. And I hope to have the opportunity to come back and present to you on augmented reality, because I think the potential here at this city is incredible. We're also moving forward with implementing a digital citizen hub to enable an improved unified client experience. And some of the key components of that digital hub would include stronger authentication, so to improve security, but also great integration with our source systems and channels, including app, chatbots, the full suite, if you will, of our portfolio of systems of engagement. We're also moving forward with a comprehensive resident notification capability so that we are better able to notify people, whether by push notifications, you talk about emergency management, how do we reach people in context on topics that they're concerned about, that they want to hear from us in a way that's much more frictionless, but also much more in context when they need that information. And we're looking at adding additional functionality for the My Service account as well, including preferences or things related to volunteer management or emergency management as well. And we're going to continue to drive the rollout of an enterprise data analytics solution. So this is going to be critical for us to continue our efforts around data-driven decision-making to deliver better citizen-centric services moving forward. So we're continuing to roll that out so that we give our operations and our frontline staff and service delivery better information, more real-time information, and better insight on the service delivery to citizens. Thank you.
This slide shows the capital funding sources, and that they're 100% from the capital reserves. And finally, just to kind of highlight some of the operating items that we'll be looking for in 2020, the increase, as I mentioned, the Microsoft Office 365 licensing cost, as well as insurance reliability of services, applications, and infrastructure, and then the adjustment for cost of living. And then from a capital highlights, as Mark and I highlighted, we want to have improved digital services to the citizen, we want to implement a digital citizen hub, continue rolling out an enterprise data analytics solution, modernizing a lot of our legacy applications, and then investments in technology information from a security perspective. And that ends our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to public delegations, maybe I could just ask Councillor Sudds to make the roadmap motion. Thanks.
Just got to find it. There we go. That the ITSC committee recommend that council sitting as a committee of a whole approve the ITSC portion of the 2020 draft operating capital budgets as follows. Number one, the Information Technology Services budget as follows. A, Information Technology Services, Operating Resource Requirement, pages 3 to 4 of the ITSC budget book. And B, ITSC Capital Budget, page 5 of the ITSC budget book, individual projects listed on page 11.
Thank you, Councillor Sides. Do any other members of the committee have any motions that they want to put on the floor at this point? No. In that case, we'll move on to public delegations. And well, I think we have still one at this point. Mr. Darwin, come on up. It's good to see you, and I think you know you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to be here. I have to make my regular appearance here, I guess. So, so today I'm happy to hear all of the great updates from staff here, and just wanted to, I guess, talk about open data. I guess that's one of the items that I like to talk about here. So, just in terms of progress this year, I think we saw some great activity in 2019, and I hope to see that again in 2020. So. 2019, we saw new staff assigned to the open data portfolio, as well as the new platforms, Open Ottawa and Engage Ottawa. And also a lot of improved dialogue with the community in terms of pilot projects and discussion about what's coming up and that sort of thing. As well, I started to hear the term automation when it comes to populating the data on the open data platform. So rather than doing manual updates to data items, I started to hear about, okay, we're going to automate this so the updates can become regular. So those are all great activities that I heard about in 2019. One issue that continues to be a concern from my perspective, and this is something I think I mentioned last year, was about data quality. So it's great to have data sets out there, but if they're not actually representative of what the reality is, that's a challenge. So I guess my request for this committee is, number one, can we look at again increasing staffing in this area in the coming year? You know, not by necessarily increasing the budget, but more reallocating focus from other issues potentially. Obviously, I don't have the details in the budget, but maybe we can shift things around. So to again focus on the quality, and I think you know, IT doesn't own the data. Or Service Innovation doesn't necessarily own the data, but they own the program. So I think it's up to IT then to lead that discussion with the various departments about what does it mean to publish data? How do you be responsive to client needs? How do you make sure that things get updated, that kind of stuff? So, you know, leading that discussion with the various departments. As well, I'd like to hear more discussion about what is going on. So in terms of you know, public blogging or Twitter feeds or this kind of thing. You know, this is what we're working on. So, you know, the great update that we heard from Mr. DeCotret this morning. So, you know, how do we get more of that discussion going to the community and not just wait for the next IT subcommittee meeting? As well, related to that, you know, it's great that we have a pilot project coming up for the chatbot, but, you know, developing an AI, you know, this is something that takes a lot of work, and you need to have those discussions with the community well before you actually have technology ready to use. So I was talking to a representative from the U.S. Department of Transportation related to work zones, and they didn't come out with an API in a program. They said, okay, we need a way that, you know, smart cars and whatever can understand where, you know, staff are working on the highways so that, you know, we can appropriately communicate that to a smart car. And so, dear community, what would you like? Was how they started that conversation, which is a very different way than, okay, we developed a whole bunch of stuff and here it is. And then the community goes, well, that doesn't work for us. So it's a very different way of doing things, and I would hope that we continue to move in that direction in 2020. And the last thing, which not related to open data, but last IT subcommittee meeting, we heard a lot about Wi-Fi, but I didn't hear anything about that in the budget, so just curious about that angle as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the delegation? I want to give staff a chance just to speak to some of Mr. Darwin's points. No, Ms. Turner, do you have any response to Mr. Darwin with respect to keeping those lines of communication open with our developer community in Ottawa and ensuring data quality particularly as well?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the comments. So certainly we endeavor to keep those lines of communication open with our community, and I think the approach that Monsieur Ducotre has taken to date around co-creation is interesting. If we need to go further, certainly I thank you for those comments. With respect to open data, it absolutely is a challenge when one does not have the governance in place around all of the data within the organization. We certainly can take that away and talk to our partners around the quality of the data and see if we can't do a little bit better.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Darwin. Does anyone have any questions of staff on the larger budget? Yep, Councillor Suds.
Maybe just to pick up on one of the points that Mr. Darwin raised around the Wi-Fi. So I know that connectivity strategy is one of term of council priorities. Can you speak to what's within this year's budget or what we can expect with regarding that project?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. So, Councillor, what we've done is we've, at this point, engaged with KPMG on a connectivity study, in part. We're also in parallel working through the balance of our facilities on public Wi-Fi to look at what the art of the possible might be to Wi-Fi enable the balance of our facilities, and we'll be coming back to IT subcommittee in Q1 with that assessment. So in terms of funding at this point, we're taking so nothing in specific in this budget around connectivity. Other than the maintaining the existing facilities that we do have, because there's some ongoing costs around maintaining the connectivity in these. But we're taking a very prudent posture around connectivity. There's a lot of decisions that are going to happen at the federal level around things like passive assets that we need to understand where the government might move forward with that. Given that at our level of government, we don't have a lot of levers when it comes to connectivity, those are very, very critical decisions to be made. So, but in parallel to that, we are looking with KPMG on the potential options we might have to alleviate those potential funding requirements going forward. So I think to answer your questions, we are looking at many different things in parallel, with the understanding that the regulatory environment may change as well, and we want to take a prudent approach to that.
Thank you. And maybe just to clarify, thinking back to our discussion at the last meeting, with respect to Wi-Fi and now the, I'll call it operational costs, are those falling under your budget this year?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The operating costs fall under ITS budget, the operating budget, and so that's where they're not part of the service transformation budget, right? Being an operating expense, they fall under ITS.
Okay, thank you very much.
And seeing no other questions, there is the roadmap motion to approve the budget still on table. Is that carried? Carried. Thank you. I know we have no in-camera items. Are there any notices of motion for consideration at a subsequent meeting? Seeing none, are there any inquiries? Councillor Drews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a small inquiry, and that's had to do with our PST data files that we've been having some difficulty and challenges. So I would like to ask staff if during implementation of our new software upgrade, like the city has been doing with Office 365, is the time for retrofitting our files like PST data files that are not compatible with this 365 system factored into this process. The reason why I'm asking that, we're always happy to move forward with bigger and better, as well as benefit to the new system that come with the upgrades, but the growing pains and lack of ability to perform our job efficiently is greatly affecting our city staff, because 365 can't reach the data files that are PST folders. Finding past information for our meetings, resident and staff are impossible, let alone an INFIPA request. Therefore, I would like to know before another changes like this is being done, how can we ensure that it's not the city employee responsible to migrate their data? This wasted much of our times and cannot be afforded. Secondly, I would like to know what issues the Office 365 team is experiencing with this migration, and if there is anything could be done to prevent more staff time that extended or time consumption, or can staff help those aren't fully immigrated to the cloud with their PST files. So it's a very complicated inquiry, but it's been really difficult, specifically with our old data that we have. It's probably new councillors, probably it's much issue, but for second-term councils, we have a lots of file, and sometimes we need to pull our data, and it's been really difficult. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor DeBruz. I know you'll provide a copy of that to the clerk. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Thank you very much to staff. I know budget is a stressful and busy time. I appreciate the work that you've done since putting together the last one. Are we adjourned? Thank you very much, committee.